Welcome to the Infinite Chapter. Today, we lace up our boots and walk alongside Stephen King, or rather, Richard Bachman, through The Long Walk, a dystopia that turns pain into spectacle and the road into a judge. By the way, the film adaptation has already premiered, but today we're talking only about the novel, no comparisons with the movie. Jon, why does this book hit so hard even when we think we've seen it all in reality shows and endless feeds?
Because it doesn't compete with twists, it competes with pulse. The tension is physiological, stabs, blisters, hunger, fear, and at the same time, ethical. What do we consent to as an audience when suffering comes with clear rules and a prize? The Long Walk doesn't shout at us, it wears us down like asphalt. If you agree, let's step back for a moment to where the book comes from.
Perfect. Let's start there. Who Bachman is, when the idea was born, and the cultural climate the book breathes. Open that door. Author and context.
Author signs as Richard Bachman to explore a drier register, less fantastic, much harsher. The seed of the story is from the 60s, and it's published in 1979. Post-Vietnam, television turned into a public square, and authority with a military sheen. In that broth, you can hear Shirley Jackson, the ritual logic of the lottery, and then Orwellian skepticism. And the world of the book isn't our exact US, it's a parallel one, stiffer and more televisual, where the walk works both as a state ritual and as national entertainment.
I like how the pseudonym works as a mask and a filter. Would you say Bachman lets King write with less comfort and more edge? And with that frame, how does walking end up becoming a sport of obedience?
I would. Bachman removes the crutches and hardens the pulse. And in a country that watches TV like it's a stadium, it's logical that the state would turn the walk into a ritual and a spectacle. With that in mind, let's hit the road. The walk starts without ceremony. 100 boys pushed onto the road and a whole country watching. The rules are brutally clear. If your pace drops below 4 miles per hour, a soldier calls a warning. At the third, there's no referee or appeal, you're taken out. There are no scheduled breaks, you eat and drink while moving. The prize promises everything, but until you get there, if you get there, the body is in charge. We follow Ray Girardi with Maine beating in the background, and those who gravitate toward him out of need or instinct. McVeers, who punctures cynicism to pull out humanity. Stebbins, always half out of frame as if he knows something the rest don't. Barkovich, who uses provocation as a shield. Scrom, kind and down to earth, with the life off the road that weighs on every step. The novel doesn't live off the what, but off the when and the how. When a muscle gives out, how someone decides to take one more step. Without spoiling anything, there are flashes that leave you smelling the asphalt, a never-ending uphill under cold dawn light, families on the shoulder cheering and suddenly shouting a name that breaks someone from the inside. Fine rain turning the pavement into a slick belt and making the boots feel heavy. A joke told at the wrong time that still buys you 10 minutes of willpower. The major gliding by like a living insignia, and in the background, the dry click of warnings, keeping time like a cruel metronome.
Now I can see it. The sweat, the white edge you don't want to step on. A country watching like it's a Sunday show. With that in mind, let's get into the kitchen of the narrative. Why doesn't such a simple premise run out of steam and actually tightens with every mile?
The narration is a third close, almost zero psychic distance. We never leave Girardi's skin. The body is the camera.
Unpack that closeness. What does it look like line by line?
Verbs arrive through sensation before reflection. Heat swells, calves burn, breath rasps. The pronoun stays he, but the vantage point behaves like first person. Filters are tight, no omniscient detours. That's why a blister can drive a scene the way a plot twist would in other books. And the 3-warning rule is craft, not just world building. A visible countdown that trains you to scan pace like a tachometer.
So the rule structures attention. What about tempo on the page? Sentence length, punctuation, the music of the line?
When pressure rises, clauses shorten, parataxis takes over, conjunctions drop. Cadence mimics football. thud, thud, breath, and then a clipped sentence hits like a snap. Between bursts, dialogue releases pressure. 2 or 3 lines, a shard of humor, a moral feint. It's pacing via microvalves.
Craft decide, where does the dread come from if we already know the rules and the road?
From micro-uncertainties, weather turns, a slope that looks mild and isn't, a crowd that cheers at the wrong time. The system is deterministic, the bodies aren't. Your brain runs probability math toward that third warning, while your gut bargains for 1 more minute.
Talk to me about sound. This novel feels noisy, even in silence.
Soundscape is a character. Boots, breath, the dry click of warnings, scattered cheers. King repeats textures, leather, gravel, wind, so the ear stays engaged. When a shot arrives, it's not just plot, it's a punctuation to the rhythm you've been hearing.
And the crowd as mirror. How is that written without lecturing?
By angle and detail. We glimpse faces, hands with banners, someone eating, someone yawning. No sermon, just habits. That accumulation turns the audience into a Greek chorus of routine. Symbols stay concrete, the road as conveyor and firing line, the white edge you shouldn't cross, the major as immaculate ritual master.
That gives us the craft toolkit: focalization, countdown mechanics, cadence, and sound. With that in place, let's peek at the backstage: pseudonym, influences, the stories that frame the road.
Bachman was a lab for a rougher, more nihilistic prose. The book's embryo is youthful. Maybe that's why the teenage psychology sounds so authentic. There are echoes of Shirley Jackson in the social ritual and normalized violence. In later pop culture, you can feel thematic kinship with Battle Royale or The Hunger Games. Not a direct lineage, but family resemblance. And the film adaptation was announced several times over the decades, with comings and goings taking a long time to materialize.
Translation: many wanted to film it, few knew how to sustain that rhythm of blisters and silence. I'm intrigued that it anticipated the logic of reality TV before reality TV took over the living room. Okay, let's move from trivia to what stings today. How does this read in 2025?
It's a cult book, especially for readers who seek the drier, existential king. Read today, it works as prophetic criticism. It turns pain into a sport, gamifies obedience, and strips bare our role as spectators. The machinery of the prize turns violence into a measurable routine. It forces us to ask, what do we accept when the rulebook is clear and the camera's on?
It confronts me as a reader and as a citizen. I felt ashamed of my own curiosity. I wanted to know who would fall next. And that's part of the mirror. That's why it feels current, not because of rifles, but because of the applause algorithm. Let's put our cards on the table.
For me, the strengths lie in the impeccable narrative device, the clean prose, and attention sustained by the physical and the ethical. The characters flare up in brief but vivid moments. What might rub some readers the wrong way, the intentional monotony. If you're here for twists, it may feel heavy. And an emotional rawness that doesn't ask permission. Who would I recommend it to? Anyone who wants a dystopia without ornament and is willing to walk a story that hurts by accumulation.
I recommend it if you're drawn to books that leave an echo in your body. It's not comfortable, and it's not trying to please. I keep McRise as a weary conscience, and the idea that a conversation while walking can save you for 5 more minutes from the edge. If you go in, go all in. No hurry, and without trying to please yourself as a reader. And tell us if your steps keep sounding in your head after you close the book. That's our episode. We want to hear from you. What does it mean to win in The Long Walk? Where do you draw your red line as a spectator? Tell us in the comments and add your book suggestions for future episodes. We read them all. Before you go, tap subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify so the next chapter finds you automatically. If you enjoyed the conversation, share this episode with someone who loves dystopias that don't cheat.
Thanks for walking with us today. Next, Crossfreed's The Lottery by Jackson, 1984 by Orwell, and Bachman's The Running Man to keep thinking about pain, spectacle, and consent. Take care, keep reading, and we'll see you next week.